Sleep panel, Sheena. We might as well kick off early.
Do we have sound? We have sound. We do
We
have
have
sound.
sound.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that. Marvellous stuff. I don't know why I'm speaking. Mike is the host of the show.
That's my show. Right, we're all good.
We're all good.
Right, so we've gathered you here today to discuss a timeshare.
Where's the free breakfast? I was promised a steak dinner.
But should we kick off?
Let's do it.
Should we do a thing? And we'll start off as traditionally we do with the theme tune, right? But I've actually set it up properly, so it's going to play through the speakers. So it's Sunday, the 20th of October, 2024. And you're listening to Skeptics with a K. I'm watching Skeptics with a K, the podcast for science, reason, and critical thinking. Give us a cheer.
Oh, nice.
I am your host, Mike Hall. With me today is Marsh.
Hello.
And a bigger cheer, please, for Alice.
Did somebody boo there? I heard a boo. I definitely heard a boo. Boo, science.
You're setting a precedent there.
I don't know why they phoned in the cheer for you, Marsh. I'm not sure what that's about. Can we have a better cheer for Marsh? Thank you. I think I might have over-cheered them in the intro, and that was the thing. We got cheer fatigue.
You wasted all their cheers. Yeah.
Right, so I'm a little bit of a Marvel fan, right? A little bit. Mostly, to be honest, through Saturday morning cartoons, right? From the 80s and 90s. Like Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, which I really loved. Watched it again recently, absolute shit.
Yeah, it's totally shit. Absolute shit, yes.
But when I liked it, I was 6 and probably in the target demographic at that point, right? It was much more
You're
fun.
allowed to like shit things when you're 6.
Yeah. I also liked the Incredible Hulk cartoon from around the same time. That had much the same thing. And also the 90s Spider-Man cartoon, which I know you love, Marsh.
Now we're talking. This is proper Saturday morning for me. This is how I got into Marvel. I absolutely adored this cartoon. I've been rereading all of the Spider-Man comics from the very start throughout this year. And it's weird because I've got to 1997, which is after this show was made. And now I'm in stuff which is canon that I don't remember and don't acknowledge as canon. So it's like, no, Spider-Man never did that in the comic. No, that was never.
And I think this show still holds up now. If you watch
brilliant.
the show now, it's still genuinely a good show, which is good. And obviously, I'm a big fan of the Marvel movies as well, which is not a surprise. I think everyone's into Marvel these days. All the nerds are into Marvel. It's hard to look back and really appreciate how much of a D-list character Iron Man was at the time that they made this film. And there was a reason for that, and that was because all of their top characters, like Spider-Man and the Hulk and the X-Men, they'd sold the movie rights onto when Marvel had no money. They sold them on for no... I think Sony bought Spider-Man for $7 million. And they're still making movies now, like billion-dollar movies off Spider-Man. They paid $7 million for that. So they had to make movies from their D-list characters because that was all they owned, was Iron Man, Thor, which everyone are their A-list characters now, but weren't at the time, right? So that first Iron Man movie I thought was really good. Robert Downey Jr. Was fantastic as Tony Stark.
Massive woo.
He is a massive woo. Gwyneth Paltrow, obviously.
Massive woo.
And we also, in that first Iron Man film, we had Terrence Howard as James Rhodes, who was later recast with Don Cheadle from Iron Man 2 onwards, supposedly over a pay dispute. But unfortunately... many of the actors involved in the Marvel movies, especially for some reason Iron Man 1, have gone on to be massive woos. So the obvious example here is obviously Gwyneth Paltrow. But Robert Downey Jr., as you say, Marsh, he leans in that direction as well. The reason Iron Man is drinking chlorophyll all the way through Iron Man 2, and a bit in Iron Man 1 as well, is because that's what Robert Downey Jr. is into. So he's like, oh, I should be doing this, because Tony will be drinking juices and things like that. But those are things we've already talked about on the show before. So today we're going to look at the other star of Iron Man 1, which is Terrence Howard. So Terrence Howard has for several years now been promoting his own version of mathematics, which he refers to as Terry-ology. Right? Terry-ology. That's not a joke. That's genuinely what he calls it. He calls it Terry-ology. But before we talk about Terry-ology, I want to talk about some of the other things that Terrence Howard has claimed over recent years. So appearing at the Emmys in 2019, he said, "Let me put it this way. All energy in the universe is expressed in motion. All motion is expressed in waves. All waves are curves. So where do straight lines come from? Where do straight lines come from to make the platonic solids? There are no straight lines.
He's a straight line denier.
Straight line denier. Doesn't do straight line.
Which must make it really hard when he does like the yarn and pins on his board. You have to go like diagonal around between pictures.
No, you can't diagonal.
No, just curly lines between the pictures and things, yeah.
So as you might expect for this kind of COD Deepak Chopra shit, right? That every single line of this is absolute bollocks. Every single thing he said here is absolute bollocks. And we could spend some time going through and critiquing each line and go, well, actually, potential energy is not in motion, and not all motion is in waves. There is such a thing as linear motion. And what the fuck do you mean by where do straight lines come from?
I mean, straight lines famously come from A to B. That's how you do a straight line.
That's how you do it. But I don't think we need to do that. I think it's Terence Howard's efforts are largely self-defeating. Earlier this year, he appeared on Joe Rogan, where during this interview...
Interesting outfit.
He doesn't even know how to wear earphones.
Earphones over the hoodie.
Over the hood.
Over the hoodie. But appearing on Joe Rogan, he claims to recall being in the womb. He says he can remember that. He said that he was having a dream, one of those falling dreams where you fall and then you hit something. But when he hit something and he woke up and he was in the womb. I'm not sure how he was dreaming about falling before he'd been born.
Yeah.
When he'd never experienced what falling was.
And he's like suspended in a sack of amniotic fluid.
Yes.
Which I imagine makes falling quite difficult. Yeah. It's not a medium you can easily fall through.
But he claims he remembers being in the womb. He claims he remembers being born. He remembers his circumcision. His evidence for remembering all these things is, he said, when his wife was pregnant, he shone a light on her belly every day. And when their kid was born, he really liked lights. Can't argue with that. Yeah. Can't argue with that logic. That's straight up. Watertight. It's watertight. Right?
Lights being the only thing that babies can detect because their eyes don't get shapes until a while in. Yeah.
Naturally, of course, he is also an anti-vaxxer. While on Joe Rogan, he claims that the spike protein from the vaccine interferes with the BRCA1 gene. No protein, he told Joe Rogan, no protein has ever been able to penetrate the nucleus of a cell. Alice?
I've never heard of transcription factors. I think like that the proteins do get into the nucleus of the cell. It's how we make protein.
It is how we
Isn't
make
it how
protein.
conception works? And that's not the nucleus of a cell, that's the outside of a cell.
Yes.
Okay. I thought he was just denying conception. No. Okay, but not quite. Okay.
But the spike protein from the vaccine, he says, goes into the cell, goes into your DNA, and it finds the BRCA1 gene, and it says, switch off. And because the BRCA1 gene is involved in tumor suppression, for that reason, we have seen a 300% increase in cancer since the vaccine. Alice?
I'm not even going to dignify that with an answer.
Yeah, of course, none of this is true. None of this is how it works. There are many, many other ridiculous claims that Terence Howard has made. He says that planets are spawned from the sun in the same way that human beings defecate. That's what he says. And that the red spot on Jupiter is actually a moon in the middle of forming. It's a moon that is forming. That's what the red spot on Jupiter is.
Okay.
Moons are birthed from planets.
Planets are birthed from stars.
Yes.
We'll come back to the rest in a minute. He says the red spot on Jupiter is a moon forming.
So the moon must be being formed from the planet.
Apparently so, yes.
Like a universal Matryoshka doll. Like
yes.
Something smaller and smaller and smaller. There's something inside of the moon as well. Okay.
His evidence for this is that the red spot on Jupiter is at its equator, and we also poo from our equators.
What?
It's not.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
Unless the equator is like diagonal, in which point any point on a circle is on the equator if you decide which line you're taking as the equator.
Yeah. So we don't have equators.
No.
Jupiter's red spot is not at its equator. Jupiter is not a star. But these are the arguments that it makes. Planets are star poo. He also says that hydrogen is not the first element. It's just the first one that we can see because before that, they're all too dense.
Okay.
Anything lighter than hydrogen is too dense, so we can't see it. Can't see it.
There are definitely gases.
The lighter things are dense.
Lighter things are dense.
There's so much wrong with this view. I can't even get my head around it.
He also says that carbon, hydrogen, silicon, and cobalt are all the same thing, just played in different octaves.
Different octaves. Okay.
They're all in the key of E, he says. He says they're all in E, just in different octaves is what they are. He repeatedly refers to silicon as silicone, which is actually the stuff we make breast implants from. And he also says that carbon is a bisexual element. It is bisexual.
Okay.
What?
I don't know about bisexual. It's definitely polyamorous with its 4 covalent bonds.
So I'm not going to mock him for this because famously on this show I said palladium was fictional.
That's true.
After Iron Man 2. And we
Man
got emails about that, and it turns out palladium's a real element. So I can't mock him on it. It's right there. I can see it, in fact.
But I do want to talk about Terry-ology, right? So Terry-ology, Howard claims, demonstrates that 1 times 1 is not equal to 1, as big mathematics would have you believe.
Okay.
1 times 1 actually equals 2.
Okay.
And Terence Howard can prove it. Right? So he goes for a proof by absurdity, right? Reductio ad absurdum. This is where you prove something is false by demonstrating the impossible consequences if it were true. So let's assume that 1 times 1 equals 1, like we're told by mathematicians, right? Right away, we can see that this is an incomplete equation because there are 2 1s on one side and only 1 1 on the other. This equation doesn't balance. This isn't true. What happens, he says, this is what he says, literally, what about the conservation of energy? Where did the energy of the missing 1 go? It can't just vanish. Can't just vanish.
No.
You can't argue with that. I can't argue with that logic.
You can't argue with that logic because it is complete nonsense.
It's 2 1s on one side. There has to be 2 1s on the other. You can't just destroy the energy of the other one. So that's not a balanced equation. They have to balance. So 1 times 1 can't equal 1. The other proof he gives is he said, let's subtract 1 from both sides. That's what we'll do. Subtract 1 from both sides. So if we remove a 1 from that side, that cancels out. We remove a 1 from the other side, that cancels out. And now 1 equals 0. Oh no, that's not true, is it? We know that's not a fact.
That's not how you cancel the side of an equation.
No, it's not at all.
You don't cancel it and then replace it with something else.
I'm not lying, this is his actual logic.
But in his world, if you do cancel it, you do replace it with someone else, like he got replaced in the Iron Man film. That's all he knows.
So now, then he says, let's do the opposite, right? Let's add 1 to both sides. And this is a little bit trickier, right? Because we now have a 2 on one side, and on the other side, we've got 1 plus 1 times 1. So he says, well, what does 1 times 1 mean? 1 times 1 means you add 1 to itself 1 time, right? So if you add 1 to itself 1 time, that's 2. Plus 1 is 3 equals 2 now. Madness. Absolute madness. So 4 different ways he has proved there that 1 times 1 cannot equal 1. The only way this works, he says, is if 1 times 1 equals 2, because then the equation is balanced. He wrote on Twitter, he said, why is it that only I, in the history of recorded history, that's what he says, the history of recorded history, why is it that only I, in the history of recorded history, have ever asked the question about this unbalanced equation? Couldn't be because you're stone cold fucking wrong, could it, Terence?
I think no one in recorded history has ever thought that, therefore all of recorded history must be wrong. Yeah, okay.
He says this false concept must have been the brainchild of a godlike figure, someone who the people credited for giving them the multiplication tables. Because apparently God gave Moses the 10 Commandments and his fucking times tables as well. That's just been passed down as axiomatic truth.
Well, he gave him 1 times the 10 times table, the 10 Commandments, which is why there's 2 sets of 10 Commandments, because 1 times 1 is 2. Yeah.
He went on, he said, some call them the Anunnaki, the sky people, whoever they were that gave the naive generation some 6,000 years ago a multiplication table. They gave that poor misguided people a false axiom upon which to build their world. So it wasn't God, it was aliens.
Wow.
It was aliens posing as Sumerian deities lied to us about the times tables. And nobody noticed until Terence fucking Howard.
But why?
Well,
You're going to tell us why the aliens want to lie to us.
he doesn't seem to have any suggestions as to why.
Just they did.
As devious aliens plan devious alien plans go, it's one of the weaker ones, right? It's even the Daleks' plan to hollow out the core of the Earth and pilot it around the galaxy as a big spaceship, which is the plot of a Dalek story. That seems to make a lot more sense than this. We're going to give them a bogus times table and just watch the civilization collapse. Also, this fiendish alien plot seems to hinge upon everyone throughout recorded history being stupider than Terence Howard.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That is a giant flaw in that plot.
So maybe if Terence Howard had actually stuck around for Iron Man 2, we might have seen Rhodey help Tony Stark use Terry-ology to solve the Palladian problem in the second generation arc reactor.
In the film Iron Man 1x1. Yes.
I suppose we'll never know, but I suppose what we can tell is that even Iron Man isn't going to save you from a spectacularly bad idea.
How do you feel about improving your motivation? Do people in the room want?
A lot of unmotivated people on that particular thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I would quite like a bit more. I mean, we've put on a big event this weekend. We're quite motivated people, but I think a bit of additional motivation would be helpful. Get stuff written ahead of time instead of like planning our show 5 minutes before you walked in.
While you were stood outside, yes.
How about improving your confidence and self-esteem? Okay, maybe we're more on board with that one. It'd be nice. Better concentration. Higher level of self-control could be useful at times.
Definitely last night
Definitely
in the bar.
Yeah. Useful things to improve, I think. I benefit from those. It's day 2 of QED. I think I could do with some more energy. I am fucking knackered. And more happiness. Pretty sure we all want that.
I love the idea that someone's there like, no, I don't want more happiness. I want less happiness is what I'm after, actually. Yeah.
Who would like better relationships? I don't know, hopefully we've also made some nice relationships this weekend, made some nice friends. Increased stamina. These are all things that you can have by doing absolutely nothing. It is the holy grail of all wellness claims. Do nothing but get all these benefits and improvements. And this one even promises to give you the ability of having multiple orgasms. So let's have a look at another list of things that you can get. Oh, there we go. A slide about multiple orgasms.
That is your way of depicting multiple orgasms.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't ask me what I had to type into the stock image to find that image. So this is another list, and I think from this list we can start to look at who the target audience of this wellness claim is. So we've got things like increasing productivity, increasing motivation, boosting your income potential, increasing
potential, not income, just potential. You could potentially earn more money one day.
Yeah. Increase your focus, boost your self-confidence, increase your energy, boost your libido, strengthen your immune system, sharpen your memory. Make you more of a risk taker. Maybe you can start to see like which gender they're targeting this at. Helps you sleep, relieves your depression, deepens your voice. That's definitely a good thing, not just a neutral thing. And gives you stronger hair. Don't even know what that means.
I'm looking at Mike.
I know why you're looking at Mike.
And improves your self-control. So I'm aware I've not told you what this practice is yet, but let's talk about what some of the people who use this practice actually think about it. So one Reddit user says, I don't think you can read that, but I've got it written down, that they've been using this practice for over 4 years, and they say they've experienced a newfound level of energy, confidence, and sometimes arrogance. They've got an insane level of motivation to improve life or create breakthroughs, overcame many addictions, and became done with unhealthy lifestyle choices, no matter how fun they are. That they get respect and aggression from men. They're still figuring the latter part of that out. They're so confused why men are aggressive towards them. They're getting attraction from women, children, and animals. So they've got signs of selection and submission everywhere I go, playing with their hair, looking down, shy, moving closer, initiating conversations, even touching is now totally normal for them.
Is that the animals? It's like the idea that the animals are like playing with their hair and like initiating touching.
And that they've had inner transformations. They were an ex-hardcore materialist, and their work was in robotics, and now they have spirituality as a major part of their lifestyle. And they used to think that girls, in fact, were sex. I like how I've sanitized this and made it more appropriate, just automatically. They used to think that girls were sex objects and trophies, and now they see them as feminine beings and connect with them on a much deeper level. And they have a childlike wonder. They say life becomes colourful like a mild dose of LSD. Sounds brilliant, right? Another person says that their mind has become so resilient and that reaching their goals feels inevitable. They say it's like there's a sniper in my brain shooting down negative thoughts 1,000 miles away before they even have a chance to reach my conscious.
That is not healthy. That is not good mental health practice.
And another person says that this time last year I was directionless and unemployed. Now I'm making a full-time income in sales. I'm in better shape. I spend more time socializing and I quit playing video games. So these are our goals in lives. Quit wasting our time with video games. So what is this wondrous thing that turns lives around and makes women, children and animals adore you? The practice is semen retention. So semen retention is the act of, and when I first heard of this, I was like, is this thing that people talk about where like women are apparently like hoarding the DNA of the men they have sex with? Because that's also a thing that some people believe. But no, this is the act of avoiding ejaculation. So different people engage with the practice differently. Some people, particularly those who engage with the NoFap subreddit with 1.2 million users. They typically tend to prefer to avoid ejaculation only when using pornography as a masturbatory aid, but they're perfectly happy often to ejaculate with a partner.
Hypothetically, I imagine. Not actually in practice, but hypothetically. Should the need ever arise.
So for the people in the NoFap subreddit, it's often about regulating a dysfunctional relationship with pornography and masturbation. It's not. It's about that kind of experience that people have had, and you can see in the text there that they're talking about sex addiction. And I'm not about to go picking on people who are trying to work on their sexual relationships with themselves and their sexual partner or partners.
Can I pick on them if they describe themselves as fapstronauts? Can I pick on those ones? Okay.
Yeah. And I think it's laudable to address personal difficulty, especially when it's having a negative impact on your life and relationships. And the NoFap subreddit description says it's a porn addiction and compulsive sexual behaviour peer support forum. And this isn't a story about what is or isn't an addiction. If this helps people who feel their life is negatively impacted by porn or compulsive sexual behaviour, that's great. They've got their support network. This subreddit even says masturbation in moderation is generally healthy. Yes, they call themselves fapstronauts. I can't even say it. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. The semen retention subreddit, however, is totally different kettle of fish. So this has got 154,000 members, and the semen retention subreddit says SR is an ancient practice used by a small percentage of the male population worldwide. And they say that SR provides many benefits that are extremely useful to men, regardless of your age, social and financial situation. And the purpose of this subreddit, they say, is to discuss the physical and spiritual benefits of retaining. So in these instances, the people using this subreddit, they're avoiding ejaculation entirely. And it can range from complete celibacy to through to full sexual expression, including orgasm, but withholding ejaculation.
How do these folks get on with the blue balls people?
Well, yes.
Because these seem to be diametrically opposed issues.
It's probably no surprise then that there are a lot of posts on subreddit about extending streaks, including people who say that they have been practicing semen retention for 1 year, but until recently could never go past 1 week of retaining. I would say that's not really semen retention. That is just reducing how frequently you wank to once a week.
Just wank it.
It's wank reduction.
It's wank reduction, yes. But who am I to tell people how to label themselves? And of course, this isn't a new practice. People have talked about reducing masturbation and ejaculation since forever. This is a core part of like religious practice. Historically, there's been views that celibacy can bring you closer to God, and that those who are the most religious are also those who refrain from any sexual practice. At least that's what they say. Whether that's actually how they behave in their behind their closed doors.
For a fact, it definitely isn't. Yeah. There's a lot of evidence that is not how they behave. Yeah.
But this is so much more than a religious practice. In the 1930s, I've got some other examples here. Semen retention, 1 to 2 months of abstinence, and somebody who generally struggles to go more than 2 weeks.
Ups and downs is maybe not a great phraseology.
In the 1930s, Napoleon Hill wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich. I can't believe this. We've never talked about Napoleon Hill.
You asked us, have we ever talked about Napoleon Hill? And I said, I don't know who that is or where that is. So I don't know if it's a person or a landmark, but we've not talked about either.
This comes up all the time in certain movements. Like, this is a really popular book. And this was released in the 1930s. And he wrote the 13 steps to think and grow rich.
The 1930s is not a good time to write a how to get rich book. That is going to get found out pretty quickly.
So his 13 steps were: desire, start with a strong desire or burning ambition to achieve a specific goal or outcome. Makes sense. Faith, have unwavering faith in yourself and your ability to achieve your goal. Auto-suggestion, use positive self-talk and affirmations to reinforce your beliefs and goals. Specialized knowledge, acquire the knowledge and skills needed to achieve your goal. Imagination, use your imagination to visualize your goal and see yourself achieving it. I mean, it's a classic self-help book, right? It's all the usual bullshit, but from the 30s, so it kind of started some of this bullshit. Decision, make a firm decision to follow through on your plan and never give up. Persistence, keep working towards your goal even when faced with obstacles and setbacks. Number 9 is power of the mastermind. Surround yourself with like-minded people who support and encourage you. Number 10, the mystery of sex transmutation. Use the power of your sexual energy to fuel your desire and drive. And then his last 3 were the subconscious mind. Tap into the power of your subconscious mind to help you achieve your goals. The brain, use the brain to analyze and plan and make decisions to take action. I don't know why you need to write down that you need to use your brain to think and grow rich. I mean, the clue's in the title there. And then the 6th sense, trust your intuition and inner guidance to help make you make the right decisions and achieve your goals.
So this was a book that was saying to achieve your goals, you've got to have unwavering self-belief. You've got to plan. You've got to stick to it at all costs, no matter what people say. Surround yourself with fervent supporters. This is from the 1930s. Was this available in German? Because it may have done some bad stuff.
So in his chapter on the mystery of sex transmutation, which is using the power of your sexual energy to fuel your desire and drive, he wrote, the desire for sexual expression is by far the strongest and most impelling of all human emotions. For this reason, the desire, when harnessed and transmuted into action other than that of physical expression, may raise one to the status of genius. So abstain from sex, put all of that energy into your day-to-day life, and you will become a genius.
Okay. Sounds good. It doesn't. It sounds totally shit, actually. Sounds awful.
Of course, now there is a book on Amazon which is entire. So this was a book about lots of things, and there is a book entirely about semen retention on Amazon called Semen Retention Miracle: Secrets of Sexual Energy Transmutation for Wealth, Health, Sex, and Longevity, Cultivating Male Sexual Energy.
How do they choose that image for the front cover? It's like a Doctor Strange kind
That's
of
what I'm
portal
saying. It's a little
type
Doctor
thing.
Strange portal, isn't it? Or some sort of flaming cock ring.
Yeah, it's like they're not ejaculating.
So this was self-published by Joseph Peterson in 2020. That's Joseph, not Jordan. And in his opening chapter, he says that in traditional Chinese medicine, ancient texts speak of 3 vital forces of life. These are Jing, or essence, Qi, or air, and Shen, or spirit. He says Jing is believed to be a finite resource that we're born with. It's fixed throughout life, so you're born with a fixed amount of Jing, and that it's most important for longevity. He also says that the most concentrated form of Jing is in the semen, which is strange because if it's about longevity and is concentrated in the semen, then I'm not sure why women live longer than men. Or maybe it's because they're just wasting it all by wanking it out.
Too much.
It depends on the women, I guess, how much semen they're exposed to.
Does that mean men would live longer if they wanked less? Is that his theory? It literally is his theory.
It is.
He goes on to say of releasing semen out of the body that it's kind of like mojo, and you don't want to lose your mojo.
Oh, God.
But he explains that sexual communication allows a man to transform some of his jing into chi, which is strange for a fixed resource that you're born with, that you can now convert it from one thing to another. But it means that sex is considered a healthy act that replenishes the life force, but ejaculation itself represents a loss of life energy. He says there's a number of famous people who have practiced semen retention, including Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson. He's arguing Mike Tyson was celibate. Mike Tyson, who went to prison for sexual assault, was celibate. Okay, right.
Saido Takamura, Mori, David Hay, Sigmund Freud, Isaac Newton, Steve Jobs, Nikola Tesla, Plato, Socrates, the Dalai Lama, Pythagoras, Swami, Vivekananda, Michelangelo, Tolstoy, Kanye West, 50 Cent, and Mark Wahlberg. So you're in great company. You're in great company if you choose to go that route. I've not fact-checked any of these names. I don't believe for a second that they all abstain from ejaculation. And you might notice that there's a mix of people on the list. Some are religious, sure, but a large proportion of sports people looking for an edge when they compete. And then some are men who clearly have no respect for women. We know that some of these people on the list are not good people. And it's true that there are a good few comments on the subreddit with the view like this one shared. So this one is, this is very long. This person talks about the experience with engaging with women out and about in the world. And they're talking about how women dress a particular way, particularly provocative way. And he thinks that women... Sorry, 1 second, let me find my words. Or when women wearing clothes that highlight a figure, or she posts things on social media which is seeking validation, and that women don't have the same cost that men have. So they don't get drained of energy when they experience sexual release, and they can, he says, have sex and still walk away with their glow and confidence fully intact. Men have sex and lose their glow and confidence.
What is he doing sexually that makes him lose all his confidence? He really needs to have some therapy on that. Yeah.
Yes. This is not unique to women. Men can have confidence after they have had sex, it turns out. But there are posts all over the place about how people feel better able to respect women when they abstain from ejaculation. Some saying that they no longer focus on a woman's physical appearance, or that they're better able to form friendships with women. And look, if abstaining from orgasm benefits your sexual, romantic, or platonic relationships with others, then who am I to tell you that that's a waste of time? But I think if you're putting all this energy, and there's a lot there is a lot of conversation on this subreddit. They are talking about it all the time. There's a lot of energy.
They've got a lot of energy to burn, it turns out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Into abstaining from ejaculation, there are definitely better places to put that energy.
Oh, you were prepared. So, since 2020, I've been editor of the Skeptic magazine. Alice is the deputy editor, and Mike, along with the rest of the board at Merseyside Skeptics, are on the publication team. And I absolutely love being the editor of the magazine. I love hearing from people all around the skeptical movement, of their expertise and the various things that they know and the various things that they've found out. And they write for the magazine. We get to publish people who have all sorts of different perspectives that we wouldn't normally have access to. And I love being able to have so many people write for the magazine. So I was very excited when I got an email from a superintendent pharmacist who was offering an article on the myths and misconceptions about erectile dysfunction treatments. We didn't coordinate this, I promise. We never coordinate on the show. Just lucky.
All morning.
Yeah. So this person emailed in to say that they'd investigate all the popular claims and about myths about erectile dysfunction and scrutinize their scientific validity, and then emphasize the importance of evidence-based approaches. Seemed like a really solid pitch for the magazine. This is the kind of stuff that we do. Really lovely idea. There's loads of stigma around sexual health, and while most of that stigma is often targeted at women, when it comes to male performance, there's a huge amount of stigma around things like erectile dysfunction. Even the fact that we call it male performance is a bit toxic. We never talk about female performance in bed. Like, women have sex, men perform sex. So there's a huge amount of kind of stuff on this. And so I was really, really happy to have a pharmacist offer an evidence-based myth bust to this whole area. Okay. A week later, a draft of the story arrived. And I'm not going to go over it in full, but I wonder if you can spot why I wanted to talk about it today. Because it identified 10 myths about erectile dysfunction. And myth 1 was erectile dysfunction is only ever a psychological issue, which he says that's a myth because often it's physiological. And if you see a doctor, they might be able to prescribe you medication. Myth 2 was that you can cure erectile dysfunction just by exercising and eating healthy, which says is a myth. You can't. Lifestyle changes only do so much. What you really need is counseling and medication, things like Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra. Myth 3 was that erectile dysfunction is only ever found in older men, which is a myth. It opened with the line, the first myth we must deal with is erectile dysfunction is an issue that affects the elderly.
Even though that was the third.
Yeah, it said
third point.
Yeah, myth 3, the first myth we must deal with is this. Okay, just ignore the other two. But the response here was like, no, it doesn't affect older men. It can affect anyone, so anybody should consult their medical professional to get some medication prescribed. Myth 4 was that ED treatment is best for severe conditions, but no, that's a myth. Even mild erectile issues can benefit from medication. Myth 5 was that ED medications are instant and require no endeavour. And this is only partly true because ED medications, they're not magic, but they do work really quickly and really very well indeed. It carried on.
Require no endeavour.
Yeah, no idea what that means. It carried on. There was the myth that erectile dysfunction is always irreversible. But no, it can be reversed with medication. There was the myth that erectile ED treatments are dangerous and have severe side effects. But no, don't worry, ED medication has no serious side effects and isn't dangerous at all. And there was the myth that only surgery can solve severe ED cases. But no, it turns out medication is the answer, not surgery. So this entire article...
Is that a myth? Do people think you need surgery for erectile dysfunction?
I don't know that I've ever met anybody who thinks that's the only solution, apart from perhaps the person who wrote this article. But I will come into that in a moment, actually. So this article was pitched about being all about the myths and misconceptions about erectile dysfunction, but it concluded in every single line that it could that the solution was boner pills. Yeah. Every time. Which might also explain why, in this article, I'll come to it here, but it might explain why in the 4th paragraph of the article they included a link to Ashcroft Pharmacy, which claims to be the UK's top registered online pharmacy. In fact, this link to this pharmacy was in the 4th paragraph of the article. They put a sponsored link in the 4th paragraph of an article they sent to me, the guy who tells everyone about the 4th paragraph rule of PR bullshit. This was just opportunistic content marketing, which is why I was very happy to pull it apart in the show. I wouldn't do that. If you want to write for The Skeptic, I won't pull it apart in this kind of way. This was very clearly dodgy from the start. So I got back to them and pointed out that this article all about the myths about ED never tackled really any of the myths about ED. It just constantly pushed medication. And at that point, the email trail went cold and I never heard back from them at all. Content marketing is in many ways the cousin of bad PR. It aims to flood the internet with commercially sourced material from a source that's pretending it's got nothing to do with commercials, pretending it's content that's just purely editorial and opinion, and is always just an advert. And their hope here was that the Skeptic, as a magazine, was content-starved enough and naive enough to accept ultra-low quality filler content and then not notice that there was a link very prominently placed in the middle of it that would send a little chunk of our Google juice in the direction of dickpills.com, essentially.
Like we've got any fucking Google juice.
Yeah, exactly. Well, obviously the game here is if they send this to enough people, every little nudge of Google juice will do the job. We get a load of approaches from would-be SEO scammers trying to push their affiliate link copy into the Skeptic. I get like 4 or 5 of these emails a day.
Everything you're saying, I'm just focusing through sex jokes. We get a load of these.
Yeah.
We get a load of juice.
Yeah,
it's just the two of you have just filled my head.
We typically try to retain our juice to make our content strong enough. That went through my head. I thought I'm not going to interrupt my own article to heckle myself essentially. But yeah, I don't know if you get these emails. I get 4 or 5 of them a day. Yeah, usually I just delete them. But I knew we had this live show to do, so I thought I'd spend a week saying yes to every single one of them. To see what I could get them to send me. So I got an email from Clara here, who's the media manager at pandameds.com. I was very interested in this from Clara. After all, they claim to provide high-quality pharmaceutical products and healthcare solutions and have over 15 years in the industry. And they've got a network of experienced pharmacists who recognize the need to connect individuals with weight loss medications at affordable prices. She even said in her email she's been a loyal follower of skeptic.org.uk for quite some time. So not the magazine, just the domain, apparently, just the URL, just the bit that you can like auto-complete into a mail merge.
We got one of these through to Skeptics with a K recently, like just from our last show. Somebody wrote to us to say, I really enjoyed listening to the last show and you talking about the QED conference, and it took me a while to realise it was complete bullshit, because then they were like, oh, we wondered if you'd want to interview this thing. It's like, if you know our show, you know.
Yeah, you've never listened to the show. We did one interview once, and we'll never do it again. It did not work for the show. So I replied to her to say, this sounds really interesting. Could you send me an example of an article you think would fit the Skeptic? But I also clicked in the links in Clara's profile. So she's got a link to her website at the bottom there, and you can see those two little broken pictures were links to her Facebook and her Twitter at the very bottom of her in her email footer. So if you go to the website, you see a very professional-looking website here. This looks very smart. It looks kind of very, very on point. This looks very kind of well done. This website was first published on October 5th of this year. 3 days before Clara reached out to me, which is odd for a company that's got 15 years experience in the industry, but they've only just found the internet, apparently. There's social media links in the top of the website there. If you click on those, you will go to a Facebook page with 0 likes and 0 followers, an Instagram page with 5 posts and 7 followers, and a Twitter account that was newly opened in October 2024 with 0 followers at all. That's if you click the links that are on their website, the ones they want to direct you towards to look as official as possible. Because what they do is they throw up a site and they go, well, we need to put in the trappings of making this look like a proper thing, so we'll stick off some Twitter profiles, social links, and hope that nobody notices that these have never, ever been used. You've got a couple of like generic graphics in there. But that's if you click those ones. But if you remember, there was the ones at the bottom of her email footer. So I clicked those as well, and those go to somewhere else. So the ones in her email footer go to the Facebook page of a guy called Stetson Stevens, which is a Facebook page filled with memes about Pokemon in the footer of Clara's thing. And if you click on the Twitter account, it's a 15-year-old Twitter account with 0 followers. It's in the footer of her email.
Carter for Rice.
Yeah, Carter for Rice is who Clara is on Twitter, apparently.
Carter bloody loves rice. He's very in favour of rice.
Very pro rice. So oddly enough, I'm yet to hear back from Clara after I said, please tell me what you think you can offer the Skeptic. But it wasn't just Clara that I said yes to. I sent the same, sounds interesting, send me something message to, I think, 20 SEO scammers who got in touch within that week alone. There's a guy called Aslam who promised me he could provide valuable insights to your audience and propose topics that align with your content strategy. Yes, please, I said. Haven't heard back. There's a guy called Oleksii who was reaching out on behalf of Whitebit, a leading crypto exchange dedicated to making cryptocurrency accessible to everyone. And he wanted to provide expertly crafted articles that delve into the latest trends and developments in the crypto world to set a new standard for crypto education in the Skeptic. We were going to be the pioneers of crypto education. So I said, yeah, sounds great. Send me something. There was Jacob, a fitness and combat sports enthusiast with 5 years of experience in the field. Don't know which field he meant at that point. He said he's been following our site. He's particularly impressed by its content. Big fan of the content, which slammed to the design of the website. He doesn't seem to give a shit about the design. It's just the words on the page. Harsh, Mike. He wanted to provide SEO optimized content that not only engages with your readers, but also strengthens your site's authority within the industry. Okay, I said. But loads of the other approaches, which are a lot more direct. I got replies like this, where they just send a series of questions, like what's the traffic size or quality of your website? What's the price for a sponsored post? So what would I charge for them to put a post in our magazine? Do you have any other websites that they could put some content on as well? And what would you charge for that? Do you accept CBD oil or casino posts? What is the price for link insertion into old posts? That's where they'll give you money and you put their link into a post that's from a little while ago that's nothing to do with their link at all. But the idea being that, well, if it's from 2 years ago, nobody's reading it apart from the Google search engine. So you can whack it in there and it'll give you a little bit of Google juice without any of your readers ever noticing. And they said, can you provide that you do follow links, which means Google will follow those links and index them, and that we don't add disclosure or sponsored tags to the article to let people know that this isn't even a real bit of journalism. So this is just a numbers game. It's nothing more than that.
I like that at least 2 have said hello, dear.
Yeah. Do you know what? I came across this problem. What do you say at the start now when you're sending it out to a bunch of people? Because I had to send
Say hello.
Just hello. That feels too informal. I had to send a press release out to like 100
hello rather
journalists.
than hi. Like hi's too informal.
Yeah, but I think you need more formality. I sent a press release about the Rusty Razor to 100 journalists, and I couldn't be asked to do them individually.
I mean, if you want to go formal, it's to whom it may concern.
Yeah, but some of them I knew personally, and I just loop them in. It's really so. I should have gone with hello,
If
dear.
you know them personally, then hello.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, well I should have gone with hello, dear. I like hello, dear. I'll do that in future. But yeah, this is just a numbers game. They spam their emails to as many websites as possible, hoping that some of them give them a hit. And they pay to place one of their posts on those websites because the post will include this affiliate link off to their client website. And that might be an online pharmacy to buy ED medications or weight loss drugs, or an online casino, or CBD gummies, or a range of other fairly shady and dubious products, essentially. They want that link to include a do follow, which means Google will count this towards the site's authority of their own website at that point. Because their game here is just to improve the ranking of their bullshit pharmacy website on search engines. This is just computers talking to computers via your magazine, basically. It's never about the content of the article they're providing. It's just about getting the link onto another website. That's why they pay to put links into old articles as well, just to get that link onto there. And that's also why they don't want you to see that there's a sponsored post at the top, because then you're less likely to click through to that pharmacy and actually buy something, because it makes it really clear that this isn't real editorial content, this is just an advert. It's really hard to say how well this actually works. Because if you do ask for examples of articles they've placed before, they send you some. Here are some websites that have published some of the articles for one of the guys who got in touch with me. But I can't actually tell how legitimate the Kansas State Collegian is, or is this just another bullshit website they've thrown up in order to give examples of the great work they've done in the past? Because it's very cheap and easy to throw up websites very quickly these days, because everything is so much easier.
Especially when you can create logos out of nothing, because you can use AI to generate it.
AI to generate the logos, AI to generate the content, AI to code the website. You can knock this up. You can put all 3 of these up within the space of half an hour's work, and suddenly it looks like you've got an entire profile of and portfolio of your work. This is just an extension of the bad PR world, or maybe like an evolution of it, because there are more and more people trying to push dodgy content in front of readers online. They can't all get spots in mainstream publications using bad PR tactics to get into like the Mirror or the Mail or something like that, regardless of how low the Mirror or the Mail set their bar for publication. So instead of going for one really big site like the Daily Mail, they'll try to go for thousands of tiny little sites and hope that that will contribute to the amount of search engine ranking that they're looking for. So Google no longer values comments in comments boxes. It used to be like if you had a comments box on your website, you get loads of spam comments with a link at the bottom going off to bonapills.com. Google ignores that now. And so instead, they have to look for websites like the Skeptic that they think they can push guest posts onto for a very small price. But don't worry, the Skeptics got a very clear policy. We'll never publish content from this kind of source. And while you know that, and we know that, and you guys all know that, the scammers don't know that. So I did ask them to write me some articles based on some of their pictures, and some of them did. So I got an email from Alexi at Whitebit. He said, very happy to hear from you. Here's an article that you've written. Here's the article he wrote, which he said would be very good for the technology fit for our website. The difference between crypto on-ramps and crypto off-ramps here. You'll notice there is a link in the 5th paragraph of it there. So he did try to smuggle the 5th paragraph affiliate link in to here. And I admit, I was thinking, how can I fuck with these? How can I string them along a little bit? So I thought I'll get back to them and say, well, you want to put this in the technology section of our website. So I responded to say, I can see that your article is very ramp focused. And I suppose ramps are a form of technology, because not everyone can handle stairs easily. But I said, I think for it to be a fit for our magazine, we'll need a skeptical angle. So could you introduce some of the common challenges people have to ramps? Like, How steep should they be? Whether they should be straight or whether they should have a little turn in them.
They can't be straight because straight
Can't
lines
be
don't
straight,
exist.
Can't be straight line, that's true. Whether they should have a one-way system in them, so users can only use an up ramp to enter and a down ramp to leave. And what should be the punishment for using the incorrect ramp for your entry/exit needs? That kind of thing. And Alexei agreed to do this. He got back to me and said, yeah, I'll send you an article. But a few days later, he sent me another article, which was all about money laundering and crypto. And it had no mention of ramps at all. I was livid. I set him a very specific, I'm a serious editor. I set him a very specific brief. And so I said, you know, this is ridiculous, Alexei. I'm confused because very clearly the article isn't about ramps at all. So what happened? And he told me, well, I changed the topic of the article. Does that suit you? And I said, you know what? It doesn't, I'm afraid. I'd already planned a ramp-based article for our magazine. A lot of people have got concerns about ramps. It's a subject we've never touched on. I want a ramp article from you. And what he said was, I'm afraid you don't understand this topic. It's about the crypto ramp. And I thought, oh God, how stupid of me. It's about the crypto ramp. And so I responded to say, crypto ramps. You mean like secret ramps? Or do you mean like a slope to help mummies/zombies get in and out of crypts easier? Because I guess that article could work for our readers. He said, no, a crypto ramp is a service for using crypto. I said, okay, but I'm confused. What's that got to do with mummies and zombies? And he was not happy. He said, I'm afraid I can't put an article on your website. And I said, well, this is a real disappointment, Alexei. I feel like you've wasted my time on this. Offering articles about mummies and zombies, like mummies investing in cryptocurrency. Because come to think of it, where would mummies even get US dollars from? They live in ancient Egypt. They couldn't do cryptocurrency. And Alexei was not happy with me about that and stopped responding. Like, you might think that's a bit mean of me to put Alexei and a couple of other people through that kind of thing as well. But the thing is, I don't think this is particularly mean, because I point out that any time that they're writing content that I'm going to ignore for the website is time they're not scamming other people. They're not trying to do this for other people that they might have some success with. And also, as Alice touched on, they're not writing any of this content themselves. Because obviously, like almost everything that's bad about being online right now, AI is making all of this so much worse. I think almost all of the approaches I got were probably scripted from AI, at least initially, just putting into like a mail merge, that kind of thing. So from the initial pitch to their drafts to the something something else headlines, every single AI headline is something something else every single time. All of this was generated by ChatGPT. In fact, when I got that initial ED myths and misconceptions article, that very first one from that pharmacist, it even included at the bottom a screen grab to prove that it wasn't AI, which just proved that he'd written it in AI and changed it enough that it no longer came up as an AI scanner. That's what I think is pretty clear here. And it was interesting. He included this at the bottom of his article. I don't know if he meant to include it, but this is him proving this is human text. And he's even got his other tabs open. He's got Upwork open, which is a freelancing website where you can get very cheap outsourced freelancing from other countries. So clearly he just got someone else to kind of do this stuff, and he was just front-ending this whole operation. So this one wasn't AI written, except I put it into a different AI checker, and yes, it fucking was. Even that was entirely AI written as well. So getting AI-generated scam content to fill up the pages of your magazine, that's not big, it's not clever, we're never going to do it. Not at all. However, using mild levels of social engineering in order to metagame AI scammers into generating AI scam content for your Skeptical podcast, that is totally legit. That's absolutely fine, totally legitimate.
So we are very, very slightly over time, so we're going to wrap it up there. So all that remains then is for me to thank Marsh for coming along today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to Alice. We hope you all have a fantastic rest of your QED. We've been Skeptics with a K, and we will see you next time.
And Mike on, everybody!